to set the stage, the Milk Commission, you can tell us the history of it. It consists of some number of people, one of whom is a House member, one's a
Right.
senator.
Yep.
John, you were appointed to it at some point. Maybe you've been the only House member. I don't know how long it's been around.
No, it's been
or-
around a long time.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
I don't, I can't give you a really authoritative history of it, but it has been around a long time. But they also got to a point where they almost were defunct, at least dormant, and rarely met. And in recent years, I think largely because of Laura Ginsburg, she's said we should be meeting more often. At the end of the meeting on Friday, Secretary Tebbet said, yeah, we got to pick up the cadence of these meetings just because there's so much going on in the dairy world. That's starting with the war in Iran. That
When did you last, how often have you met?
they sort of aspire to quarterly meetings. But I don't know if we've even done that, but it sounds like we might even meet more than that, depending on initiatives. So Laura led the meeting, Anson chaired it. And the committee, I mean, you'll know some of these people, probably Catherine DeRon from Agrimark. She's, anytime we have sort of dairy economics, I know she's been in this, on Zoom anyway. She has updates at the farm show. She's like, and the joke is right, she's one of the 3 people alive who understands the federal milk market. Yeah. Kirsten Bourgeois from DFA and Paragon, they were zooming in from Franklin County. Organic dairy farmer called John Franklin, who's with the Farm Bureau also. John Cleary and Adam Worthenson from Organic Valley. Nicole Willette or Nicole O. Foster, depending on, I guess, what circles you're in. She's from the Willette family, a famous dairy farm, Bridport, and she married one of the Foster brothers from Middlebury. So they've got like dairy royalty on both sides. Sure. She was saying that in the Bridport, they have a cheese making plant there that makes curds, and she started the Vermont Poutine Festival. So good things there. Whitney Hull, I don't know. She's the UVM extension appointee who I think in one of our bills we added a position. I can't remember which one it was for that very thing. So
Does she do across the fence too?
I think she does, yeah. And then missing were Senator Joe Major, I guess is taken over for Bobby Starr. Rob Howe, an organic dairy farmer also from Tunbridge, was absent, but he's another committee member, commission member. So here's some.
You're a little light in that commission for conventional farmers, aren't you? Or, I mean, I know Horgan's is and Foster.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe someone was absent from the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should find out if there's.
First DFA got represented in Agrimark.
Right,
As
yeah.
well.
Right, they were more, I'd forgotten, they were more sort of players in the processing world than milk, the dairy farm side. So Catherine went over, economics is sort of same thing. We know that fluids down, but class 2 and 3, which are like what yogurts and cheese, those are still going up. Class 4, which is sort of balancing plants, it's down to, but we talked a lot about, right, just how challenging a summer it might be with diesel prices and fertilizers going through the roof for conventional. Organic dairy farm, the processor side was optimistic, but John, from who was an organic dairy farmer, said, well, we're barely hanging on here. So it's always interesting to hear the farmer, point of view and the processor point of view. The processors always seem to be more optimistic. Yeah, exactly.
The processor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura talked about the Dairy Business Innovation Center. interesting there. Originally, there were three of them, and those three, so it's what, Vermont, Tennessee, and Wisconsin get exactly the same amount of funding from the federal government, and then California was added later, and they get less, which is interesting. And then there's some states, the Rocky Mountain states, from sort of Idaho down through Texas, that aren't part of any of these, which is interesting, given that like Texas and Idaho are really big dairy states now.
It's a political thing.
Yeah, a totally political thing. I have that.
It's in Texas, big fun, you know?
Right, yeah, but I mean, these are like Idaho and Texas, I think, are relatively recent players, right?
Yeah.
And it's like venture capital, probably money.
Yeah.
Whitney Hull talked about how, I mean, how Vermont in 2016 had 828 dairy farms, now we're down to 430. And just her, what she's noticed is that more than anything, dairy farms, we need to invest in infrastructure, sort of like our schools. There's been so much deferred maintenance and improvement that they're really tired. And we talk a lot about what you brought up, Richard, of how tax credits in New York have really paid off. That state's invested a lot in exactly infrastructure and new equipment. And now with processing like the Chobani plant and Fairlife going into, upstate New York, they're cleaning up to do some. It's further west, I think, from Rochester, south of Rochester.
Did they talk about, John, that when these plants come online, there could be the possibility of the first time ever milk moving west out of Vermont in a big way to backfill?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't specifically get into that, but I was wondering, right, if the, say, McAdam plant in New York, which Agrimark owns, right, if, some of those farmers might start shipping
Well,
too.
Yeah, could be. Well, they're gonna, of course, draw that all milk is pooled in this great world of ours now, and Agrimark milk, DFA milk might end up in the McAdam plant instead of
Yeah.
Agrimark milk,
Right,
and some Agrimark milk might end up down in Boston at the bottling plant.
Yeah.
I mean, they pool everything.
They pull everything.
So,
So
pretty
like,
close.
Chobani doesn't have contracts just directly with producers.
I don't.
Yeah.
They do out west in places, but I don't know if that'll happen here or if it'll be more. I know DFA is trying hard to get contracts in these places and.
does GFA sort of dominate upstate New York dairy as far as?
DFA dominates everywhere.
It's the largest co-op in the world.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah. The bad news was we're losing three plants, Booth Brothers. Is it Enosburg Falls as a cheese plant?
Yeah. Franklin cheese,
Yeah, what do they do? Do you know, Jim?
and cheese.
What's it sold under? Is it,
Oh, I don't know.
yeah. But they're not totally going under, but they're
They're
downsizing.
way down.
Yeah, so that's bad. And then Parago came up, which we should make a note of to look into that.
Formula.
Yeah, formula, but they must be a big buyer of something. I don't know if it's dried or if it's.
We'll dry that too.
So was that coming from St. Albans? The whey protein for Parago?
It probably was now, it would be DFA.
Yeah,
Of course, Wyeth, we went across the border doing formula years ago too.
yeah, boy, I've heard over
Well,
New York.
Parago was Wyatt,
That was
that plant was Wyatt, the one in Georgia.
Oh, that was a
Wyeth owned
plant.
both of them.
Well, Wyatt built it, and then Parago bought it. And we just approved a big expansion there 2 years ago through Act 250, and they never built it.
So rumor on the street, Jack, you probably know more about it than I do, is the plant needs a bunch of upgrades. And I think they find it easier to do their upgrading in one big plant out in the Midwest someplace.
That's what it.
And then truck formula across the world, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of jobs for Vermont, if we could somehow
It was
figure
four, you said it was 400.
25, something like
Yeah, there's
that.
quite a few people that work there.
And then we talked a bunch about, what we could do from a policy standpoint for our dairy farmers. Like the overorder came up, like this bill, because Maine has one.
Mhm.
Tax credits like Massachusetts and New York and Connecticut have now. I guess Connecticut's starting a tax credit that's based on New York's.
Investment
Yeah,
credit for,
and if you can't offset your taxes, I guess you'll just get a check.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nice. And John Franklin, the organic dairy farmer from somewhere up like Caledonia County, which, he said his suggestion was that agriculture does so much for our tourism that if there's some way, to increase rooms and meals or have, part of that
Mhm.
uh,
to help.
connected fund and then
Yeah.
roll it back into agriculture would be great.
Do we know at all how New York is funding?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Or Maine. I mean, Maine probably funding it, I'm assuming by the near 1,000 miles of ocean.
Well, so Maine
Thoughts.
They're such a milk deficit state. And I don't know if they have a surcharge on a price per gallon.
They do.
And then that money goes right back to Maine farmers and Vermont used to be 600 and something pounds produced or no, way more than that. Like 1,000 pounds produced per capita and consumption 600 and something. And Maine was like 300 pounds produced. And these are old numbers that I'm trying to pull from the data bank.
I'm curious to know what New York, how they're funding.
We should
it.
find out.
Did you say Massachusetts also tax credit? Think so.
Yeah.
Mass or Connecticut?
Connecticut's 20%, Mass has a $2 over order price. Probably courtesy of Vermont Milk.
It was interesting that on the processor side, like Catherine Duran and Kirsten were saying that overall, the big American picture, US picture is that things were looking up because we've kept our like butter and cheese prices so low that we're doing really well exporting now. But on the farmer side, you can imagine that's not really your 6 cents per dollar, for the farmer. It's not helping them. And then on the input side, like this summer, things are gonna be so expensive that you can see the writing on the wall. Then they talked about sort of specific things like protein. Everybody wants protein now, and so are going back and starting a line, I think, of milk that's called like Protein Plus, that's going to have extra protein in the milk.
Where does that come?
They must somehow artificially add like a protein shake. I mean, there must be.
So it's not a particular breed of cow that,
Well, some of them maybe on the like the grass fed. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
more.
Well, like in the St. Albans Co-op, before it was organic. One truck went to all us Jersey farms. Picked their stuff up separately and then dumped it into the rest of it to bring it all up. That's what they did.
Is there more protein in it, like Jersey? Component wise, I guess.
Component wise, Jersey was higher, but
Right.
had the volume,
Yeah.
but the Holstein breeding. It's coming up there.
But I guess we have a surplus now of butter fat,
Terrible.
which would be nice with school nutrition if we could
get whole milk and.
That whole lump in the schools, but it's a Jersey breeders been trying to do it for 30 years.
Yeah.
I sent Senator Welch an email or probably a text saying that we still have issues with the whole milk for kids thing because is it just breakfast they can have whole milk at?
No, just lunch.
Just lunch? Yeah,
All the other programs, breakfast, after school, summer, those, they didn't include it in all those.
So they have to have more space in the cooler essentially then, because they have to have milk. They have to have the other kind of milk.
Right.
I
and
wonder if they just forgot, like, it just seems
It-
stupid, like, why would we change one meal and
I
not?
believe
change
it
the
was
other
an
meals?
oversight, and he said that they were working on that. He was aware and they were
Yeah.
working on it, and, you know, they're too busy.
Those committees actually have staff and and the senators and
No,
somebody-
somebody explained it to me, it wasn't so much an oversight as somehow politics
it
with
sounds like, yeah,
nutrition,
yeah.
based stuff.
They were able to make a big announcement, but the impact is,
Right.
I think.
Oh, you know, part of it is because of calories.
yeah.
And so I think if you went to everything, then you went over the calorie limit for kids. So nutrition was still getting in the way.
Got back on the tater tots, you know.
We are, speaking of nutrition, almost at lunch and I don't want to keep people, but anything else, Sean? It was,
So that's it. I mean, I think any questions this committee generates.
Yeah.
We should bring to the next meeting.
okay.
And I think policy stuff like, you know, for us, maybe to look at, like Greg said, like, how does New York do these tax credits or Mass or Connecticut, and how does Maine do their overwater would be just on a basic level would be good for us. to know.
Yeah.
You know, of the CAPO stakeholders group, the one tax credit that had traction from all sides was tax credits for anything agriculture does for water quality. Would be maybe a place to start.
Right,
You know, we have the clean water funds. And,
almost like a payment for ecosystem stuff.
yeah,
It's of how much farmers have done
yeah.
on the TMDL side and nobody
Yeah.
else has.
Yeah, and you know, if we're investing in drag line and injection equipment. And manure storage and handling and barnyard waste and whatnot, that, you know, there's this all. And some of it, we get monies from NRCS, but Sarah was just in here. My conservation district manager was just in here updating us a little bit on how NRCS is now not funding. They used to fund this and now they're not. So.
Or there are no engineers, so.
Yeah,
There's no engineers to design it. Nobody wants to work for an RCS where they can make a lot of money from a private engineer.
All right. We will break for lunch and then, so